Hello, friends. The 1011th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Over the past 24 hours, the Russians have advanced again in the Pokrovsk and Kurakhove directions. The enemy is advancing into Kurakhove and expanding its presence in the city center, according to the deep state map. According to it, the Ukrainian Armed Forces are already holding only the western half of the city. The 46th Brigade's Telegram channel writes that they have stopped the enemy in the city center with difficulty. According to him, on the one hand, the multi-story buildings contributed to stabilization, and on the other, the incredible resilience of the people. In addition, the enemy has transferred the full brunt of its attack to the north of the city, beyond the reservoir, and so far has no opportunity to carry out offensive operations in densely populated areas, unlike the private sector in the east of the city. "We are holding on," the 46th Brigade's Telegram channel wrote. A fighter with the call sign Muchnoy also reports that the enemy is regrouping and preparing to storm Stary Turny. The enemy continues to attack in Kurakhove itself, in the area of the high rises, and judging by the command, "We will have to hold the defense as long as we can, but it would be better to retreat to advantageous positions and not lose personnel," reports Muchnoy. In the south of Pokrovsk, the Russians are advancing from the side of Zhovte, which was recently captured, and are fighting in Pushkine. A Ukrainian fighter with the call sign Muchnoy believes that in Pushkine the fighting will not continue for long, since there are no high-quality reserves. According to him, if the Russians take the village, then the way to the Pokrovsk-Kurakhove highway and access to the Dnipropetrovsk region will open for them. The Russians also advanced again in the Rozdolne area to the highway going to Kurakhove from the west. They have less than 3 kilometers left to Rozdolne. At the beginning of this week, it was more than 4, and less than 6 to the highway itself, it was almost 7. To the west, the Russians also advanced to the east of Velyka Novosilka. At the same time, the Ukrainian military writes that the Russians are making their main efforts to bypass the city. An officer of the Ukrainian Armed Forces with the call sign Alex writes that the Russians are pushing from the side of Rivnopil and Rozdolne. The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that Rozdolne has already been captured. The enemy is trying to reach the Velyka Novosilka Bahatyr road from the side of Rozdolne, with a subsequent exit to Novyi Komar. A Ukrainian soldier with the call sign Shadow described Russia's goals. "I have already said that blocking or capturing Velyka Novosilka poses a threat to the positions of the Ukrainian Armed Forces in the neighboring Zaporizhzhia region, which the Russians may try to bypass from the east rather than storm from the south." The Ukrainian Telegram channel Deep State confirmed information from the Russian side about the loss of the village of Darino in the Kursk region by the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Also, judging by its map, the Russians have advanced in the Plekovo area. Both villages are not far from the Ukrainian border. That is, these attacks are aimed at cutting the Ukrainian bridgehead at its base. Today I want to share with you the text of an article in the Telegraph, in which an employee of the Territorial Recruitment Center openly talks about his work. I want to note that the Western press has begun to talk more and more often about the reality of life in Ukraine, and I like it. I think you understand why I cannot speak about this openly, but I can quite well quote. I would like to provide this article with videos of forced mobilization, with the lawlessness that occurs on the streets of my country, but according to the new democratic laws, this is already punishable. And so, let's move on to the article. Every morning, Artem, name changed, goes to work as one of the most famous and feared military recruitment officers in his hometown in eastern Ukraine, which has suffered from war. After a short briefing, his team decides where to go. Some go to cafes, restaurants, even nightclubs, anywhere young men of draft age might be. Then, the hard work begins. He said that people resist them violently until the very end, comparing the detainees to rats. Sometimes it is like dealing with a cornered rat. They continue to fight even when they are in the car. Those who resist always threaten to take revenge on our guys or their families, said Artem, describing how he delivers his targets to minibuses to then send them to the military registration and enlistment office. Artem works at a territorial recruitment and social support center, something he doesn't tell his family or friends about. The work of the territorial recruitment centers has attracted public attention due to viral videos of men in camouflage stopping people on the street and forcibly drafting them into the army. The emergency mobilization has become a game of cat and mouse. Information about the movements of territorial recruitment center employees is posted in online chats to warn draft dodgers. Young men in these chats discuss how to reduce the number of times they leave the house and avoid the metro or busy areas of the city to avoid being caught. Territorial recruitment center employees like Artem are portrayed as cruel and merciless kidnappers, willing to do anything to meet the monthly recruitment quota. Artem, 28, a husband and father, agreed to be interviewed on condition of anonymity and on condition that his city not be mentioned for fear of repercussions. Many Ukrainians are already in the military database, but others have been avoiding this duty for almost 3 years, fearing that they could return from the front either crippled or in a coffin, like many of their comrades. Artem said that every morning, the employees of the Territorial Recruitment Center gather for a daily briefing, and then head out to different parts of the city. Part of the team is on duty at military checkpoints at the entrances and exits of the city. Others patrol the streets and stop all the men they meet. Some groups travel by car in a constant search, he explained. We have zones where our groups work, almost constantly mainly transport hubs, but sometimes we leave these places, so that people do not get used to avoiding them. Officers are often on duty at the entrances to markets, in parks, on beaches, near cafes and businesses where men work, Artem added. He confirmed that he has a target for the number of detainees, and noted, because of the shortage of people, we have little choice in who to stop now. Almost everyone is subject to inspection. Previously, he said, he did not detain men who looked physically weak, but now the tactic has changed. Almost always, the adrenaline takes its toll. Even those with all the documents in order show fear, he said. Those with documents in order usually have serious injuries that prevent them from serving, are students or volunteers, or work with international journalists. However, sometimes the documents turn out to be fake, for which the men pay thousands of dollars. Artem's team is responsible for checking them. After the men are taken into minibuses, they are sent for a medical examination. Those who pass are sent to training centers, where they are prepared to be sent to the front lines. Previously, we allowed people to go home and pack their things, but lately they do not return voluntarily. They hide. Sometimes we have to confiscate their phones, he said. Some men are unable to tell their families or friends where they are. The Telegraph has received unverified messages on Instagram in which people are looking for their loved ones, fearing that they have been taken to the territorial recruitment centers. In Kiev, the Telegram channel, Weather Kiev, with more than 104,000 subscribers, publishes data on the location of employees of the territorial recruitment centers, including photos and videos of men in camouflage detaining passers-by. Subscribers warn where it is better not to go in Kiev. Red exclamation marks indicate risk zones, and suns indicate safe places. One of the channel's subscribers, 35-year-old Vasily, said, men of conscription age are afraid to walk calmly on the streets. In the metro, you will see young people under 25, people in uniform, or older people, but not men from 25 to 40, because everyone is afraid. Artem has been working at the Territorial Recruitment Center for more than a year and a half. He said he chose the job because he liked being part of the system. At first I felt sorry and compassionate for the detainees, but now it's just a job. I have an argument, either them or me, he added. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.